we go. Maybe. All right. This is something different. I guess I should have worded it differently in the title, but it doesn't matter. So there's about at least there's different versions of course, in the spiritual community, I guess, depending on who you're talking to, they already kind of have their set mindset on how things play out here and the origins of everything. So whatever, everyone has their own point of view. So who cares? You can't make everybody happy, but like with the Lyra, like the birth of humanity and all that. I always found that I was even going to write a. I think I wrote like a book on it too. I haven't published it yet. It's not that detailed. I got bored of it too. I'll push it out sometime. I get tired of all this, all this different points of view and everything, and some of you are lost anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters. So much spiritual entertainment out there, it's freaking ridiculous. Well, with yeah, this whole thing about the Lyrans being the birth of humanity. I mean, it's all a point of view, right? But humans have been around before, before all that Lyran stuff. The Lyrans also, I mean, yeah, they're part of our evolution, but so are reptilians, Syrians, and everybody else. That's why the world's so screwed up. It's a little bit of everybody. Well, instead of being a reptilian, you can be a human. Instead of incarnating as a reptilian being, so you can reincarnate. This thing's all messed up. I guess when they have their incense, sometimes it's broken on the bottom, so you can't put it anywhere. I have this like little handle thing. It's not. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense here. It's supposed to be for incense, but if the end is all messed up, it doesn't work. But yeah, there's like this. At least, I mean, for some, yeah, it's true that, because at least the feline, it's like I said, it's all point of view. The felines, you can say that we're not ready for a war, sort of, maybe. Of course, they're also kind of arrogant too, and complacent. And so I think that they kind of piss off the reptilians also. There's a whole, and of course you can say the carrion beings, the bird beings, cause of it in secret. Well, it's another part of inbreeding, to bring two species together. Yeah. And here we are. But there's also, I mean, this world shows a lot of the darkness within the felines too, let's put it that way. So they have a lot of issues. You can say they have a lot of issues they know about. So we're experiencing that, of course. And I guess you have different points of view. You can say the canine came out of the feline, you can say. Through genetic engineering is a possibility. There's some of that going on, yeah. And the rabbit and whatever else that's out there is, but there's other rabbits out there's other canine beings. It's all over the place already. I think humans been around for. It's just that it's been modified through the felines. Well, from what I felt from it, I felt like the feline. Well, it was already like the human avatar was already a prototype or something that was already out there. They just took it and added their energy to it so they can survive. As the reptilians, I always felt like the reptilians are going to wipe them out. And it felt like, think about it, I mean, we really wanted to exterminate them. But I felt like some of the feline beings kind of pushed that. you know, they they fought back, but maybe I don't know, some of the things they should not have done. At least I'm feeling, but either way, not that it matters now. Well, I guess it does. I mean, it's so much tangled web here. Uh, but there's a lot of the feline darkness, obviously Syria, and it just you just have all these different races all mixed into one. It's just we're just buried here, like buried alive practically. And sorting this all out is kind of impossible, right? Doesn't mean you need to, but well, you get through a download, it just comes to you automatically. Of course, some get downloads all the time, and some of them are so warped and messed up and programmed and MK Ultra and it's like, yeah, I'm sure you are getting a download. How to enslave everybody. Some are like that. Or keep certain individuals lost. Well, if they're lost also, and they have a large following, yeah, the lost leading the lost. Not to mention names. I think I've already run into that already. I think I've already kind of hinted on some of that. Of course, they don't take their loss, but yeah. Right. Well, in spiritual entertainment, that's their big thing. Yeah. Whatever. Somebody needs something to do, right? Time to talk on my private sessions. Skater in the shop. Yeah, so it's different. It's like I said, it's all points of view. Some are still healing from the Lyran wars. I'm not sure if I was involved. I don't remember anything, but who knows? I guess I feel like the felines had to be taught a lesson from gathered from the reptilians, of course. But it caused a lot of inbreeding between the two of them. Like they crossed their DNA together during all of that, and so which eventually evolved into what we are. Survival. And to sort things out, sort out their issues. How's that going? Well, you say within darkness you find a new side of yourself or a new, you just, you bring out new talents because, when you get spoiled and all that, hard dimensions, it just kind of just dull. So you need some kind of inner challenge. This one has always too many challenges. It gets kind of old after a while, especially the future is unknown. That's why you have to trust that you're on the right path, and it's because we have a way of looking at things. We want things a certain way. Feel more secure. That's probably the biggest thing. Many here just want to feel more secure, and you're doing things. It's like which makes sense. Just what's it good? Like you're out in the ocean, and you want to have like a surfboard that won't, say kill you. You can say something like that. We want to be able to surf the tides and all that halfway decent, of it falling apart or whatever. So it's kind of there is some. I think there's some logic to it, but here it's the unknown. So it's like our lives are kind of like we go through into a cave of the complete darkness. Not exactly, but we're going down a path of uncertainty. Let's put it that way. It's very aggravating. Not that you need to see a full map of everything, but it's just nice to have a little bit more security. Or just no security. Whatever. Of course, so many here are afraid of. Jeez, I think most of society is just afraid of everything. That gets old after a while. Yeah, that gets very. They're not just. it would be. I mean, not that you have to live like life on the fast lane and take risks every 2 seconds, but the programming here is so dense. Well, it makes the world dull. Let's put it that way. Yeah, because you can't really explore. Well, you can on your own, but you can't really explore with others. Even though so a lot of people in the spiritual, their growth, they're looking for other people to talk to. But then you might run into other spiritual people that are freaking nuts. There's plenty of those out there. Yeah, they certainly are. So yeah, you might run into some open-minded people, but they're psychotic. So you even have groups of that shit. Delusional psychotics, yeah, called a cult, a spiritual cult. Well, I wasn't trying to go there, but it's true. Yeah, there's delusional. I mean, they might be awakened, but they're also delusional and psychotic. They might be friendly on the outside, but then you get to know them. It's like Jesus, fucking. It's even some of these conferences and what is it? What is like these weekend spiritual get-togethers and all that. Like they have the vendors and stuff like that. Some of those could be, some, behind the scenes. Yeah, just another day of spiritual psychoticness, insecurities, and everything else. So, yeah, the surface sounds great and everything. That's why the New Age energy is not exactly. I mean, some of it might be authentic. I guess it's good that you're psychotic in front of everybody. Well, that helps. I guess. So either way, that's I don't know. Some of that's the Zeta energy. It's a little bit of everything. Traumas from past, and some are just warped. They're just the way they are. They're just freaking nuts. And it's just the way it is. Insect races are psychotic here. You can go on and on with that one. Yeah. Of course, this world kind of takes those vices and takes it to 11. Well, that's the kind of the point too. It's kind of like if you have some kind of morbid, addiction, it might wear you. Where you might wear it out. But you keep doing it and doing it, and you just don't want it anymore. Without going into details of what that is. And there might be a reason for that, just to get you out of that. Because the high vibrational beings, I mean, what do they have to do half the time? Some of them are just fucking around. They get addicted to being high all the time. And they kind of have to clear out some of their addictions to actually do something with themselves. Do something with their lives. Because it can be in a higher frequency life and do nothing with their lives, too. It's like, fucking it's up to the soul what they want to do with themselves. You want to be known for something, or you want to explore your talents, or you just want to get high all the time. Whatever. But yeah, feline frequencies, obviously, yeah. So yeah, feline energies obviously have a lot of darkness, but this world kind of brings it out. Along with the canine, along with everything else, reptilian. You can say the felines can be worse at times. Obviously, some people have a cat and it kind of becomes a psychotic. Yeah, just they're playing with it and they almost kill you. I'm not sure how dogs are. I don't think dogs are like that. Maybe it's us. I think they're depending on the dog, right? Of course, it depends on the cat too, but so either way, we're going to some of the feline energies on that, but to go back to the dawn of humanity, I mean, you can say that's part of our evolution. There's some truth to that, but like I said, I think there's a lot more. There's the Elohim connections. It goes much deeper than that, but either way. It's just the felines healing through us. And the reptilian beings, they incarnate through a human, so they don't have to lay in the dirt all the time. Occasionally, a human sleep in the dirt too, but at least with the reptilian beings, they live in the swamps and all. Even the alien beings do it. So, incarnate as a human, we should get some of that feline energy of comfort and healing that rough exterior. It's complicated. It's so complicated. So anyway, I'll go to the Lyran energies. And yeah, that's actually a pretty sensitive subject matter. So yeah, because I feel like a lot of people that are here now are still healing, and they might not even like cats, or they do or not. It doesn't matter. They still have that in them. You know, well, because you live in that. For some of the Lyrans, they're just living that high vibrational life, not doing shit, and just laying around and hugging a tree, and that's about it, right? And the reptilians come in; they're actually workhorses, depending. Of course, not all the felines are like that, but a good amount of them are. They're sitting around getting high all day, and then reptilians come in and blast it all away. Get off your ass. So of course they want to go back to that, getting high all the time, and so on. So I'm kind of keeping a journal with that. Not going into all the details of it. So anyway, going to feline energies. Yeah, just not just the felines are like this, but even some of the elementals, like the fairies and some of the elves, just pleasure, yeah, life of pleasure, and it's always pleasure, and there's not a whole lot of anything else. And you can say the soul is like, say, get off your ass and do something with yourself. And here they are, not doing shit with themselves here, trying to get high all the time again. That's why you incarnate here several times to maybe at some point you'll do something different with your life instead of just squandering it for, So, yeah, at least if you have some kind of job or something, at least that's something. Because if people get addicted to being high all the time, it's hard to break free of that. You can't handle the lower frequencies here. I want to go back to being high all the time and hugging a tree or whatever the hell they're doing. Or life as a fairy and so on. Yeah, so anyway. The life of debauchery. Anyway, okay, we're going to the Lyran energies and yeah. Anyway, alright, blessings. Greasy with the feline center energies. Yeah, some of the fairy beings, elves, elementals can be worse than a sleeping cat. Cats are known to look for of course they work in the astral plane. That's their work realm. And you can say that in the Lyrans there was a lot of that happening there. Of course, you can say that was in the fourth dimension, but there's some physicality there too. You can say, well, we'll give you some points, we'll give you a point of view of some of the felines. Yes, they do work in the astral plane, but they do have a physical version of them, and became more, you can say, seen by reptilian beings or other beings, and they weren't doing a whole lot physically. And because they were working in the astral realm, but they also had their own darkness that brought them into the physical realm. Now, there might be pinks and blues, all kinds of crazy colors, and every type of, psychedelic color you can think of. We don't have all the colors here, but they still was, because this universe, this universe obviously has a lot of darkness within itself. So in astral plane, depending on your incarnation, it has the option of creating also a physicality of yourself. Let's put it that way. And the felines became seen by, the world was already there, but the inhabitants sort of just started to appear. And you have reptilian beings that have been through war, been through famine, been just hell. And then you see, yes, a world of just, yes, a bunch of cats doing nothing, basically. And that right there kind of angered them. But also curiosity, not necessarily to attack, but just to understand it. But you can say, like, some of the feline beings were not welcome to their visitations, you could say. Or kind of, saw them as repulsive. Some are like a Klingons, just kind of dirty and things like that. Some of them were, but we've been through war and everything, and you're around others that are, when you're in your army fleet, no one has the best manners. You don't need any. Not many of you are in combat right now, technically, but army brats, maybe doesn't have the best composure and all that. So you can say that felines are a bit offended, and so it was like a slow burn of hatred. Two classes collide, and that's the reptilians thought they were better, but they were workhorses. And a lot of the felines, some of them were. Some of them then understood the reptilians and not want to fight. But obviously, there were some feline beings that were irritated, and it caused. It only takes a few to cause a lot of trouble, right? And sure enough, and it just escalated. And of course, also communication gets distorted of why this is happening. And so it causes more anger, even if it's lies. Now you can say there are carrion beings and other beings involved to just see how ugly this can get. So yes, they're kind of throwing, gasoline on the fire, basically. But it did bring out a lot of darkness within the feline beings. And then you can say there are some that wanted to, depending on how you want to look at it, some wanted to connect with the feline. Like some feline beings, fell in love with the reptilian beings. Not necessarily the abuser situation, but understood them, saw the good in them, kind of like your hippie feline being. Could see the good out of all this madness, and it's genetically altered into each other, so they can reproduce and develop the human. But also, obviously don't have cats and reptilians getting on. But basically, combine the feline and the lizard into the human, what you have today, so they can live together through a human, because you can't do it through a feline. And technically you can find some way, but it's probably not the best direction. There are some of that out there, and there was some combinations. Well, you say for the felines to combine with the lizard was to, even enhance the felines in their own protections and all of that. And even understand the third dimension a little bit more. And yes, of course, it brought out more darkness, and there's all kinds of stuff with that, and morbid connections there, and just weaponization, and so on. But there is kind of a romance to it also. You have this attractive person that is married to an ogre. You find that common here. You can say the feminine finds, repulsiveness attractive, and so on. Doesn't mean they're trying to fix them, but there's some of that going on. Well, it's a challenge for the soul, and you can go on with that. So it's just it turns that some connections can turn to a nightmare, as you can see in the results in this world. Confusion. You can say it is a twisted love affair going on. And the canine beings that are seeing all this, are just scratching their heads. And what are you doing? Yes, they have their own problems, but with the feline and reptilians combining is just, for some a match made in heaven, some see it's hell, some controversial. It's like the damnation of the universe and so on. uh, but and that's why the creation of the human is so controversial. You can say, well, we saw darkness here. It's like, look what you did. So like the parent felines and reptilian beings are looking at their kids combining themselves into a human. It's like, have they lost their freaking minds? There's a lot of that out there. And then they incarnate as a human and try to talk them out of being a human. It's like, you don't really want this, dude. So it's that going on, and it just goes on and on and on. So you could say one of the reasons why is the love triangle. That's what's keeping this world going, is relationships. Even if some are not really doing a lot with their lives, they still have some kind of love relationship, if it is kind of twisted, talk either way. So that's what's keeping the world going. It might be by a thread, but it is the relationship energy is keeping the world alive. As there is a lot of different. Well, some are trying to divide you. Some are just trying to divide themselves. They don't know what to believe half the time. There's a lot of confusion here, because the memory has not been restored of why this all is occurring. So, this is.